Thanks very much, Nzinga. Yes, well, we are here at the Plastic Colloquium, which is basically an initiative that was advanced by the Minister of Environment, Forestry and Fisheries, Barbara Creasy. We did actually speak to her a little bit earlier, and hopefully you guys will play out that interview a bit later. But so basically the reason why she's brought this meeting together is so that stakeholders in the business sector can work together and try and brainstorm over how we better manage, manage in a sustainable way the disposal and management of plastic wastage. Plastic wastage is a problem because what happens is that most people don't actually dispose of plastic properly, and what happens is that it strays into drains, it strays onto landfill sites, and ultimately ends up getting into the water system, into the rivers, and ultimately into the oceans. Obviously it's a global problem, and South Africa is trying to deal with it here in Gauteng and for the broader nation. And so now today what's happening is that there are not so many talks going on, but there are actually lots of exhibitions going on. There are about 50 exhibitors here showing how they're doing things like recycling, how they're reusing plastics, how they're reusing paper and so on. And I've got a gentleman here with me who's got a most amazing story. His name is Tepo Mazibuko. Those guys who go through the street picking up waste, in your neighborhood so that they can take it to a factory that can process and recycle that waste. Well, that's what Tepo used to do. Now he owns a factory that actually recycles waste. What an amazing story. And I'm joined by him now, Mr. Tepo Mazibuko. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Just tell us a bit about your story. It's amazing. So once upon a time, you were a waste picker. Just tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, indeed. Firstly, thank you for having me. Yes, because of the challenges that we always face in the country of unemployment. So I actually stayed for about 4 years without finding employment. And with that, I had to find something to do with my life because I already had a wife and a child to support. And with, through looking around, and I was a volunteer in an NGO where we would go to squatter camps and help people, those who are needy. And the manager of that NGO was actually from Brazil. And when one day we saw these guys pulling trolleys and following each other as you see them in town, and he said to me, part of Brazil is clean because of these guys. And I said, okay, but what does it have to do with me? But little did I know that a seed was planted, and that's when actually the interest started. And I approached one of the waste pickers who was pulling a trolley to say, and that, what do you do with this? And he said, no, we just pick up and go sell. And to me, it made me very angry because here I was unemployed. I couldn't support my family. There are people who are picking up waste and making money. And when I looked into my township, it was very filthy. And I saw an opportunity right there. So that's how I started becoming a waste picker, where I started now getting a trolley and a bag, and I started picking up waste back in 2009.
So when was the transformation? When did you move from being a waste picker to being somebody who's now in charge of a recycling factory or plant?
Look, obviously one thing led to another. One thing is that we're traveling very far with these trolleys. And as we were traveling, I saw an opportunity to say, why can't I become a transporter instead of just walking? And I discussed with the guys that we were picking waste with, and they said, no, that's a good idea. So I then got a bakkie, but from the bakkie, I now got an access to the customers. And I started to ask them to say, look, what do you do with this waste? We always bring this thing here, and they took me into their factories, and I was like, wow. And the interest began to say, I have to actually one day become one of these guys. And then with all research and the support that we get in the country, through enterprise development programs, I learned how to run a business because I didn't even know how to run a business. I didn't know. For me, it was just means of survival. But then when I learned that I can turn this into a business, then that's when I took a chance of opportunities that were available in the country, applying from different departments and sectors.
Just tell us about the financial support that you got in setting up your business, how many people you now employ, and roughly how many waste pickers come to your factory to get stuff recycled.
We actually received, which we really appreciate, a great support, which was a grant from the Department of Environmental Affairs, of 5 million rands. And the reason for that is because the processing machines are not manufactured in the country. So we had to get them from China, which was a bit expensive for us. But after the department looked into our story and actually they went deep into understanding if I know what I want to do, to have the required knowledge or skills. I didn't have that much skills, and we were given this grant to get these machines. And these machines actually now brought a huge difference in our township in Katlehong, because today I've actually employed 14 people, which 90% is about young people. But the waste pickers, we have over 800 that we are working with, because remember, by having a processing plant in the township means we add value in what we are getting. So we have more people becoming interested into actually collecting these recyclables to make a living for themselves. So it has made a great difference into our people and into our environment as well.
Tepo, thank you very much for your time, sir. That was Tepo Mazibuko. What a fantastic story. Real transformation from a chap who was unemployed and decided to do something about it, make a change in his life. And now he's at the top of the food chain, actually recycling waste that comes in from about 800 pickers. He's one of many examples of great exhibitors here who have stories to tell about what they're doing to make a difference in the environment. Back to you in Zinga.
Nompumelelo Siziba coming to us live from that Plastic Colloquium. Then we're going to be having a look at your African markets and your international business news.